Okay. So. Jo. Machen wir mal da oben weiter. Nice. You and Bliss are floating in the bay's airlock, waiting for it to cycle. You pick a few leaves from your clothes as you wait. You float around the chamber as if carried by a lazy wind. Clean work. Bliss bows a little. Well, thank you, Sleeper. You didn't do so bad yourself. She checks her tool belt. Seems like we're getting into a good rhythm. Now familiar sequence of clunks and rattles sound out. And then the door hisses open. The moment it does, you know something has once again gone wrong. What's all this? Liz asks a confused-looking Moritz. Beside him are a set of crates anchored to the bay floor. He has clearly just brought them in through the bay's frayed lock. Moritz looks nervously between the two of you before answering. It's payment. He runs a hand along the crate. The Sycamore Seed crew just brought them over. He stops, but seeing the look on Bliss's face, adds, they were very thankful. I bet they were. She clenches her fist. What the hell is inside? Moritz leans over and struggles with the catches on each side of the top crate. As he does, Bliss turns to you. Don't say it. Bliss stares into space. Don't you dare say it. Say what? You know. She looks back at you. This isn't my fault. Moritz finally gets the catches free, and the lid floats off, drifting up into the bay. As it does, a small brown lump floats up with it. Moritz reaches out and catches it as it passes him. Is that a mushroom? Bliss finishes. A damn mushroom. They paid us in mushrooms? Not just mushrooms. He holds out a clump of tightly packed leaves. Produce. Bliss starts laughing. Got them high for commune. Should have known they didn't have a shit to rub between them. She knocks a small brown mushroom across the bay. Stop, Bliss. Moritz grabs her hand. These are good. Fresh. We can sell them. To whom, Moritz? Are you running a grocer's now? We need cryo, otherwise this whole bay will be shut down. We can't pay for parts with leafy greens. She wiggles them in Moritz's face. Moritz was right. Bliss raises an eyebrow. Fine, maybe Moritz is right, but what do we do between now and market day? She rubs her forehead. What a joke this place is turning out to be. Moritz closes up the crates and starts moving them. It isn't that bad, Bliss. It's a step in the right direction. He glances at you, looking for backup. They'll sell well. Bliss sighs. Looks like I went into business with a couple of wannabe farmers. She laughs. Prove me wrong then. Show me this is a windfall. She kicks away towards the new, patched-together terminal. Until then, I'll be working on how to keep this place open. Moritz mouths a thank you and goes back to moving the crates. You'd better be on your way to 3 Pilze. Oh. Third time lucky. Bliss is taking another shot at landing a contract. After the run you've had, this seems like a last chance. Okay. Okay. Das hier mal. Quite the achievement, isn't she? Saunders Sellers must be proud. You recognize the resonating voice of Castor immediately and turn to see him, hooded and tucked into the shadows near the viewing platform. Castor. So you remember our game? Good. He looks around, but the platform is clear. I'm afraid you'll have to wait for a rematch. Microgravity makes Tavla a little difficult. He smiles broadly. Castor walks out to stand beside you on the platform. Telltale clunk of magnetic boots accompanies his slow crossing. He notices you looking at them. I don't much like it up here, he explains. I hear there was some trouble at the Avonite shipyard when they announced the results of the crew lottery. They screwed us. I know, he sighs, meeting your eye. An ugly business. Sellers are too used to the way things work in the core. Exploitation is the only logic they know. He gestures out at the side reel. You know why they built this monstrosity on the eye? Money? That was a part, perhaps, but there are cheaper shipyards. He stares at the pristine yellow hull. Sellers built it here, says Costa gravely, because they didn't want anyone to know it exists. He rubs his forehead. And secrecy is something I cannot abide. He turns to face you. There are people being loaded onto that ship as we speak. Sleeping people. Locked in cryosleep like the person that you were emulated from. There are hundreds of them, and Ceres wants to send them out to a planet at the edge of the settled systems without anyone knowing where it is. But you, Sleeper, can do something about that. You're like me, you deal with data. You can read it right out of the air. With someone like you on the ship, secrecy isn't a problem. You can ping back whatever I need, whenever I need it, as long as you're on board. With you on the side reel, and with some minor modifications. He pauses. You can be my eyes and ears. I will keep track of Sellers' grand project through you. In short, says Costa, stretching, I can get you aboard, Sleeper, but I'm going to need you to help me. What if I disagree? And I doubt you will find a way onto the ship out there. It's not just me. Yes, my friend, Lamb. That can be arranged. It's difficult, but not impossible. The condition is, of course, that you go too. Castor clunks closer to the window, watching the tugs wheeling around the side reel. It's a simple offer, and the only one that will get you on that ship. Please consider it. Turns back, silhouetted against the ship. But to make it happen, I need your assistance. As I said, there's a Sellers Foundation ship docked in the now empty shipyard. I need the data from its servers. This will allow me to produce the IDs necessary for your transit. Castor looks over his glasses at you. Sellers aren't stupid though. The ship is totally isolated from the station. You'll need to get on board if you want access to their air wall servers. Once you have the data, meet me at your friend's unit so we can give him the good news. He smiles. I notice his importance to you and the little one. So cute. You don't extract the data before the sidereal horizon leaves up, then I will get the message. We have other options, but you're certainly my preferred one. But be sure when you act sleeper. Once you take the data from Cetus, you set off a series of events that will likely be hard for you to untangle yourself from. By the way, I recommend you stop asking around up here. You're bringing a lot of attention to yourself. Caster glances around as if to emphasize his point. There are only a handful of cycles until departure, sleeper. Make your decision. With that, Caster marches back off the platform, the sound of his mag boots fading away, leaving you to contemplate the sidereal horizon on the part it may play in your future. Ah, okay. Several cycles the sidereal horizon will set out. You will either be on board or not. 8 Tage. Okay. Sales infiltration, patrol patterns, security information, server room locations. You need to case this place bit by bit. So it's lockdown of security. Get wise to the potential breach. The Cetus ship will go into lockdown for several cycles. Bluff past security. Fastest way to get to know the ship is by pretending to work there. A plan so bold it might even work. Observe and explore. Careful observation and an instinct for security procedures will help you understand how to sneak on board. Okay. Strict Cetus data. You're in. Maybe if you do this right, you might be able to pull something more than just IDs. Okay. Okay, muss das machen. When you arrive at Lem and Mina's unit, Kester's already waiting outside, leaning beside the door. "I'm your sleeper, but Zeus is already buzzing with news of the breach. I was expecting you." "Will this work?" "Don't worry, the breach cannot be traced to the specific ideas I'm about to create." Kester reaches into a pocket and produces a sleek green and white hand terminal. "Data, please." Okay. You hand over drive with the data and Kester fishes around for a converter cable to hook it up. He slots it into the terminal and after some wearing, a set of 2 transparent films marked with numeric sequences are produced. "2 tickets to an uncertain future." Kester smiles to himself. "The child will go with Lem, of course." He pockets them. "These are yours." "These are yours. First, he holds out a white cube. Your side of the deal." "What is it?" "Something to help us make use of you." He passes you the square and you rest it in your palm. Small, white, perfect cube. Suddenly you feel a sharp pain and flinch. The cube jumps from your hand and rattles along the walkway. You look at Kester apologetically. Kester smiles. "Not to worry, it has done its job. Now it is for you to do yours." You look down and see a tiny pinprick in the center of your palm. "Nothing sinister." Kester puts the terminal away. "This way we can keep track of you and the sidereal horizon." "Whatever you need to do." "Excellent." Kester hands you the transparent films and you see shimmering portraits of you and Lem flickering beneath the surface. "Go, give them the good news." And he reaches across and buzzes the unit. Lem slides open the door, half dressed in his gear. "Sleeper, what brings you up here? Come in." He beckons you inside. You look to the side expecting to see Kester, but the wall is empty. The unit is cleaner, better organized than last time. Lem sits at the thin bar and gestures for you to sit. Mina's with some of the local kids. Someone has started doing lessons down the way. She seems to like it. You sit at the bar. "What's up, sleeper?" I have some news." Out with it, then." Lem laughs. "Have sellers' IDs for us?" "You have..." Lem freezes. "How?" He blinks rapidly, as if to wipe you from his vision. "Does it mean..." "Yep." Lem stands up and paces around the unit. "We have to pack." He starts laughing. "Holy shit, we have to pack." He turns back to you, smiling. "How the hell did you swing this, sleeper?" "Friend helped." "Well, thank you, friend." You show him the ID films, and he whistles at the portraits. "Impressive stuff." He pats you on the shoulder. "You should stay until Mina gets home. We can tell her together." "Sure." The buzzer goes. "That'll be her." Lem gets up and opens the door, and Mina, a bundle of energy and life, rushes into the room. "Robot!" she shouts. Lem picks her up. "Mina, you won't believe what they brought us." You flash her the passes, and she looks confused. "We are going away after all, Meanie." He lifts her up above her head, on that big, beautiful ship. Mina screams, and Lem laughs. He puts Mina down, and she runs over to you and hugs your legs. "I love you, robot," she says quietly, so only you can hear. "I love you too." And a while later, when you leave, you don't even think to check for Kester by the door until it's too late. You stop and turn, halfway down the walkway, but there's nothing there. Even that little white cube is gone. So you keep walking, back through the low end, deep in thought, excited and scared all at once. It hits you like a wave, a wide-edged breaker, roaming inland with the force of the entire ocean. The impact is a screaming brightness, blanking out everything. Behind it is silence. You float in silence, suspended. No, you do not float. You are the silence. It has filled you up. It has emptied you out. You cease to exist. Time passes, though you do not feel it passing. Then something flickers in the silence. And then something moves. That something is you. You open your eyes to a metal ceiling of flickering lights. You feel the floor around you, patting it with shaking hands. You assemble an image of yourself, lying on your back in a corridor. You shake off the silence and sit up. What was that? You glance around, looking for a sign of some change. Damage on the walls, shouts in the distance, fire and fear. Nothing has changed. Silence sits around you like fog. You try to think, furrowing your brow. How do you think again? It doesn't seem so easy anymore. You force the pathways to light up, the data banks to grant access. You feel like a fraction drive starting up after a long shutdown in cold vacuum. In the silence was negation. Dissociation so absolute that electrons shed their tethers and considered new paths and orbits. All things were possible, but none could be achieved. It was only a moment, but in that moment time ceased to function. Memory/image comes to you. One from the moments before the wave hit. You squint as you imagine it, trying to cohere its blurry form. A broken, skeletal ring. The eye. And then a vast arc approaching it. A razor-edged white curve. Wave. The wave approaches the eye. The eye spins, turning each part to face that vast white edge. You recognize their skeletal data cloud forms. The bright market, the low end, the greenway, the wastes. Then the wave hits just as the flotilla, the cordon, turns to face it. And after that, everything is silence. You open your eyes again. That is the epicenter. But of what? Merkwürdig. Okay. As I say your goodbyes to the other enforcers and walk back through the low end, a chirruping catches your attention. In a quiet corridor away from the main thoroughfares, someone has stuck a small recorder to the wall with suit sealant tape. Written across the fluorescent tape is one word: sleeper. You peel it away from the wall, and as you do, it triggers some kind of improvised trip switch. Sleeper, Sabine's voice crackles through. I've seen you with Yatagan members. Are they holding you captive now too? A high whine. I'm sorry if I have dragged you into this. Do not trust them. Something is happening within the gang, some kind of power struggle. You cover the speaker a little. the voice too loud in the quiet corridor. I will come soon. Thanks to your efforts, I have located most of their properties at the right time. Pause. I will see you soon. Don't give up. Remember our deal. The recording cuts out. You stare at the recorder, processing what you have just heard. Hearing Sabine's voice again opens up something inside of you. And as an ARP employee, do they know that I know? You struggle with a mix of concern and distrust. You throw the recorder into a nearby waste chute as you leave the corridor, still unsure who to trust, and head quietly out of the low end. Even before you reach the cordon, the damage is obvious. The blinking red lights, the drones, the tugs are all gone. Half the cordon's frame has also been shorn away, perhaps through the impact of some failing ship. People push past you in the corridor, both Havenage staff and contractors clearing the cordon. Push forward. You push through the flow of people, and despite a few suspicious looks, they offer no resistance. The further you pass into the cordon, the less people you see. You can see a few sections have been closed off, the bulkhead doors sealed and red warning lights punctuating the corridors, but otherwise most areas seem functional. Suddenly you feel a hand fall on your shoulder. Even its security. You should have known better than to wander into this place. You brace yourself as you turn. Sleeper. Peek's wide eyes greet you as you turn. The cordon. They glance around, panicked. It's gone now. They're gone down, meine ich. The Briar and Ash are still in there. Do you think she did this? Or perhaps Havenage messed up? They start pulling you towards the edge of the cordon. We should find her. What if... Calm down, Peek. Peek looks frustrated. We are not standing back and watching this time, Sleeper. Not again. Let's be careful. Peek bristles. I don't want to be careful, Sleeper. I want to see my friend. They raise their voice over the whine of alarms. This could be part of some Havenage plan to clear the flotilla. It isn't. Peek pauses. What do you know, Sleeper? There was a wave. Peek frowns. A wave? What do you mean? They pause to think. A signal that only affects electrical systems, perhaps? An EMP would have taken out most of the station, but... Peak runs a hand through the hair. I don't know what you're saying, Sleeper. That doesn't sound... They look away, down the corridor for a moment. Look, I have to find Ash. I'm sure you felt something, but we can talk about that later. They set off down the corridor. Can't sit around talking any longer. Find me on the flotilla. I'm going to find a way to Ash, no matter what. With that, they rush away into the depths of the cordon, leaving you behind. Seems like you'll need to follow if you want to get any answers. Oh. You find a small shuttle scavenging supplies from the cordon to take back to the flotilla. They'll take you too if you bring some scrap along. Okay. Simple copy pages. You hand over the scrap and squeeze into the crowded shuttle. Time to head to the flotilla. Ooh. Flotilla's friend. Shifting ships, systems, and social structures. The only way to navigate the flotilla is by rolling up your sleeves and helping out. Haul supplies. Getting the necessary supplies to each ship to meet their needs is a huge task. Joining the hauling team is the simplest thing you can do to help. Damage control. The wave hit systems more than anything, especially those on the ships, so there's 1,000 tiny repair jobs to be done. Okay. Sleeper. Moritz is leaning against the corridor wall. It's time. He looks away. Big job just came in. Grand finale. You up for it? I'm ready. Alright then. We are in business. He pushes away from the wall. This has to work, Sleeper. Has to. He looks down. If it doesn't... Liz okay? He frowns. I don't think so, but she isn't hiding that from anyone. Look, Bliss has had a rough time of it. I thought you, of all people, would understand that. He runs a hand through his hair. Sorry, didn't mean to be... He smiles. Bliss is a good one. She gave me a chance. I owe her. He straightens up. I know you have your own things going on, Sleeper. We all do. But the Bay needs someone. Bliss needs someone. Well, I need someone to help me keep Bliss from spinning out completely. He scratches the side of his head. Otherwise, there's not much I can do. He shakes his head. And I would hate not to pay back my debts. Moritz stretches me. I've got to get back. He nods and walks away. I'm out. See you up there. Okay. Halt mal hoch. Solar window. Selected launch window for the Starward Vector's maiden voyage is closing. This is going to be a tight one. Rigged and ready. Starward Vector's experimental sail deployment failed horribly. Now its massive solar sails need to be repaired. Patch solar sails. An exhausting task. Patching solar sails means maintaining a laser focus for long periods of time. And time is something you don't have. Untangle the sails. spurs need resetting and the system rebooting. But if you're careful, you can safely untangle some of the sail while you do this. Okay. Keine guten Würfel. The atmosphere in the airlock is euphoric. The Bliss keep grinning at each other like idiots. Exhausted, blinded, sore, and aching idiots. Sleeper, that was incredible. She punches you on the arm. Never thought we were going to make it. Those idiots tangled the whole thing up like nothing I've ever seen. We make a good team. The smile's a winning smile. And the lock's inner door clunks open. As the lock's inner door clunks open, Moritz gives a rare whoop. He looks exhausted too, and for good reason. Moritz has been the one ferrying tools and parts back and forth from the ship. His tired smile tells you he's glad it's done. Sleeper, Bliss, he shakes his head. Impressive. Saw that ship come in, I thought there was no way. Why, thank you, Moritz, she winks. For believing in us? Moritz rolls his eyes. You know what I mean? Take the compliment. He shoulders some of the gear that came back in with you and Bliss and heads to the wrecks to stow it. Bliss turns to you. I think you should be the one to do the honors. She nods to the ragged-looking console that Moritz assembled. I don't want to jinx it. She smiles, but you can see she's genuinely nervous. Check the console. You glide over to the console and check the screen. It takes a second to see what you are doing through the flickering, cracked display, but after a moment you see the accounts. And there it is. Almost 1,000 cryo set on the base transfer account. Well, Bliss calls. Have we been screwed again? We did it. Bliss kicks off from the floor and spins up into the bay, shouting as she does. The noise takes Moritz by surprise, and he knocks a rack of parts, scattering handfuls of metal fixings across the bay. The sight is something, glinting steel catching the work lights like glitter. Sorry, says Bliss, grinning, when she comes back down. I needed that. She kicks off and joins you at the terminal. Moritz even managed to sell that produce. We made a tidy profit. Meine Fresse. We made a tidy profit. Eventually. She laughs. Yeah. She loads a stack of blank chits into the terminal and transfers a chunk of the cryo to them. This is your cut. Bliss hands you the chits. Thank you for believing in this place. She looks away and smiles, even when I couldn't. When you first met me, I was on the edge of giving up. All it would have taken was one more push, but now this place is sparking again. Work is coming in, there are funds in the accounts, even Moritz has a spring in his step. You both look over at him, happily racking up tools. That's because of you. He punches you on the arm. He likes you. He's a good kid. He isn't bad, is he? She leans in closer. You know, he came here looking to rob the place. I gave him a job instead. She laughs. Don't tell him I told you that. I just thought it might help you understand the kid. Marge turns to look at you, and both Bliss and you awkwardly wave. Maybe it's time to change the subject. Going to be okay? Me? Always. She looks away. From here on out, it's going to be a little easier. I'm going to look for some component contracts. Stuff that will keep us inside the bay, not out in the black. No need to risk our necks if we don't need to. You want to cash out? That's fine, but there will always be work for you here when you need it. I appreciate it. She smiles, and then, out of nowhere, quickly gives you a hug. She steps back and glances around reflexively. Take care, she says softly. You too. You turn to leave. And Sleeper? Yes? She smiles. Don't spend it all at once. $366 habe ich jetzt nice. Base taking on low-scale repair contracts now. Moritz is happy to offload some of the work to you. One last job. Moritz has heard Bliss speaking with someone remotely. Is there another job coming in? As you walk into the bay of the climbing briar, the familiarity of the space overcomes any trepidation. It feels good to be back, and the return feels earned, especially after all the work it took to figure out a route through the flotilla's jumble of ships that might lead you to this blue streak. You see Ash and Peak immediately sitting at the back of the bay, deep in conversation. The closeness causes you to stop, suddenly aware that you might be interrupting something private. Peak is gesturing wildly as Ash stares out into the middle distance, hunched over. As Peak tries to get her attention, she spots you. "Sleeper," Ash nods. "Didn't quite turn out like we hoped, right?" Peak stops and glances between the two of you, the tension rising. "And was always risky." "For me, more than you." Ash shakes her head. "Maybe if you'd spend less time trying to question it, things would have gone better." Peak looks nervous. "It has worked out." They appeal to you. The flux event knocked the entire cordon system offline. The flotilla is free and Havenage are backing off. "Flux event? That's what the refugees are calling it," Peak explains. "Apparently that's what they called it when it started happening around Amber." "What exactly is happening?" "Hard to tell. It's some kind of disruptive wave that only affects electrical systems." Peak chips in. "Typically, systems are screened against radiation and interference out here anyway, but this seems to be dulled, but not stopped by those defenses." "The crisis continues," Ash sighs. "The quad may be down, but this brings a whole other set of problems." "You should tell them, Ash." Peak glances at her. "Please." Ash doesn't respond. "Tell you what." You stare at her back, waiting for a response. "Please, Ash. Haven't they shown they can be trusted?" Peak nods towards you. Ash turns, her arms folded tightly across her chest. She goes to start, and then stops. You can see the anger in her eyes, but you realize it is not directed at you, or at anyone else. She's angry with herself. "I brought weapons to the flotilla." She pauses. "And now they are gone." You suddenly remember the sleek crates that were tucked into the bay, marked with a yellow sigil. The ones Ash told you were just supplies. "What do you mean gone?" "What do you think?" Ash snaps. "Someone lifted them from the ship's bay while I was unloading the supplies." She sniffs. "At least they're in the hands of the flotilla now." Peak looks at you. She knows this was a bad move, Sleeper. I promise you. He glances back at her. She's just too proud to admit it. "So what now?" Peak looks at Ash. She finds them, and she gets them back. Stay silent. Meanwhile, Peak adds, "You and I have work to do. I want to understand the flux, Sleeper, to study it." Peak's eyes light up. This thing is changing the entire system, causing problems across the inner system, driving refugees off Amber's moons, and now it's here. If we don't do something about it, Peak pauses. It's a problem for all of us. "I can see more immediate problems," Ash sniffs. Peak ignores her. "I've been looking at the networks, and when the flux event hit, it changed things. It shuffled systems, corrupted nodes, and broke open data stores. They take out a slate and show you a flickering polygon. Some of these fluxed nodes have appeared near the epicenter of the event, but I can't get access. You, however, I saw the way you worked with data when we were preparing for the run. I think you can get into these things." I want you to find a fluxed node and bring me anything you can extract. They come and go, but most can be found in the barely functioning networks of the wastes. Pick pauses. Start there. Perhaps together we can find something that might point us to what the flux is and where it comes from. Okay. I smile. I knew you'd agree. Ash looks indignant. Don't waste too much time chasing ghosts, Sleeper. There are people on this flotilla that need any help they can get. I'm sure Sleeper can do both, Ash. Peak smiles at you. As you hear when you have something. Good hunting. And they wave you out as Ash stomps away to make plans of her own. Okay. Okay. The node flickers in and out, its position shifting slightly each time. Peak asked you to help them extract data from a flux node in the wastes that appeared after the flux recent events. Peak receives the data on their slate and begins work decoding it immediately. Sleeper, come look at this. Peak is poring over one of the displays of the makeshift decoding suite they have set up in the Climbing Briar's cargo bay. On a screen, a clump of data pathways, like an ingrown root ball, has started to untangle. This is an existing node, corrupted by the flux event. It's totally twisted up. They glance at you to check you are listening. But inside, you watch as the unwinding pathways leave behind patterns of negative spaces, like shadows staying behind despite their caster leaving. This is a whole other dataset. Peak's eyes shine bright in the pale screen light. The flux event somehow seeds this data deep into the gaps in the node, wrapping them around it. I don't get it. Peak looks crestfallen. Think of it like resin poured over an object, filling all its gaps and cracks, and then hardening into place. You watch the screen, the pattern of shadows becoming obvious now as each layer of pathways is pulled away. The flux event itself really did a number on unprotected nodes like this one. Most of the eye systems are screened against radiation and interference, but these exposed nodes? Peak makes a ripping motion with the hands. Torn apart. Peak points to a thick tangle of threads on the screen. Look, here. It looks like it's been tangled purposefully, but it's actually that all the points within the node have been randomly rearranged. It's as if the node was a bag of ball bearings, and the flux shook them. The pathways tried to account for the rearrangement once the system came back on. Hence the tangle. Peak pauses as the node continues to unwind. Although, Peak muses, it was less like shaking a bag of ball bearings and more like making them all simultaneously occupy a superposition of every possible position in the bag before locking them back into a new configuration. They smile sheepishly, but that's a technicality. But so what is the flux? We know it is a wave, one with exotic effects. That's all. Peak runs a hand through their hair. The question is not so much what flux is, but what is causing it, where it is coming from. Where is it coming from? Peak turns away from the screen, meeting your eye. And there's something else. They pause. Have you spoken with the refugees? Not yet. You should. Peak lowers the voice, instinctively. What they are reporting. Massive systems failures, cascading collapses of life support, of terraforming systems, total data corruption. Peak swallows. The flux shouldn't do that. It can fundamentally rearrange the structure of systems, especially those poorly shielded, but totally collapsing heavy-duty industrial systems, fail-safes, and all, that doesn't make sense. Those kinds of systems are built for deep space, for solar flares and radiation. The flux might penetrate them, but any reconfiguration should have been repairable. Peak looks back at the screen, where the decoding node lies almost fully open. A shadow pattern of the negative spaces that existed within its scrambled interior darkens the screen, like a set of bruises showing the pattern of the object that made them. I need to look into something. I have an idea what might be causing this wave, triggering the flux, but I need time to research it. Can I help? Pig shakes their head. I'm sorry, Sleeper, but I want to keep this to myself for now. If you need something to do, the flotilla could surely do with the help. From what I heard from Ash, things are tense there. I'll look into it. Good, good. Pig sounds distracted. Give me some time, Sleeper. Pig turns back to the console. I have some answers soon enough, I hope. You take one last glance at the uncoiling node as you leave. The dark shapes it leaves behind somehow troubling. You try to shake them from your mind. There are things to be done elsewhere. Okay. Denen geholfen. Someone told me I should be thanking you. The voice comes from behind you, cutting through the chaos of the crowded, cavernous bay. You freeze. Don't be afraid now. I've been hunting you. Sure, but for all the best reasons. You turn to see bright eyes set in a wroth face, framed in rusted metal. So. He holds out his hand, the other clamped firmly around a knotted wooden cane. Shake his hand. He grips you firmly with a heavy and calloused hand. Forgive me. As soon as I saw you, I knew who you were. Saul puts a hand on your shoulder. I've been told a Sleeper was part of the supply run that came in several cycles ago. He nods. A very welcome act, and we all thank you for it. Walk with me, Sleeper. Saul sets off through the bay, his partial suit hissing and creaking as it helps carry him through the busy crowds. You notice people making way for you and Saul, standing back and letting you pass. Pass a makeshift kitchen, steaming pots on heating elements, a restless queue collecting meals. That Elsie that came through isn't exactly a full meal, but with what we have here, we've been able to make it work. See a ladle of a greenish stew dished out. Color something, isn't it? Saul smiles. Saul leads you out of the larger bay, into a corridor lined with storage rooms that are now serving as dorms. You see someone filling a metal container from a standpipe, the water gushing out readily. Saul nods to the person as he passes. Just a little further now. Saul leads you into a freight elevator and whistles to some unseen operator to start it up. It jerks into life, and as you pass through the layers of the ship, you see people on every level, supplies crammed into every available space, and sparks leaping in bursts as the ship is reshaped and modified to sustain its population. If Avnet were expecting an exodus from the flotilla, the flux event has put a stop to that. Saul stretches. Some have crossed to the eye, but many just to gather salvage or score a hot meal. So the pressure on our supplies is shrinking, but not like I'd hoped. With the flux reaching all the way out here, people are starting to understand that our journey might not be over. Saul stares grimly ahead. Suddenly, the freight elevator screeches to a halt, and Saul leads you slowly out into a wide room of chairs and terminals, ringed by a mezzanine and with a glass roof above showing the distant hub, in the far curve of the eye beyond. The people at the terminals nod to him as he enters. Is it your ship? Saul nods. That's right. The pilgrim seat is mine to care for. He leads you up a railed platform at the center of the room and stops. She chose me, so to speak. Well, at least her crew did, and I do my best to serve them. Saul looks around the bridge of the ship, a pained expression on his face. I admit the responsibility isn't one that suits me, though we rarely get to choose such things. He glances back at you. But you, Sleeper, from what I understand, you chose to try to help us. Is that right? I did my best to. Saul nods silently. But I have to ask you, Sleeper, why are you here now? Saul leans back, and you feel his eyes on you, assessing you. Flux event. I appreciate the honesty. I'd figured as much. Saul flexes the shoulder that is free of the suit. Looking at you now, I can see that an event like that, well, it would have had a big impact. He smiles a half smile. I have tens of thousands of people here on the pilgrim seat, Sleeper, and there's tens of thousands more out in the flotilla. He leans against the railing. A lot of them are looking to me to provide some future for them, some path out of this dead end we've got into. And this very cycle, the thing we've been running away from, it just caught up with us. So these people are scared, Sleeper, and they are looking to me for reassurance. And then, on the same cycle, someone tells me they see you on board, a Sleeper. The same Sleeper, they reckon, that wanted so strongly to send a ship past the cordon to see us. So Saul scratches at his beard. So the first thing I wanted to do was thank you for that, for your interest. He pauses. But the second thing I wanted to do was find out what you want from us. Saul's suit hisses and creaks. I think that's fair, don't you? Saul takes a deep breath. So, what is it? Tell me about the flux. Someone at the terminal calls out to Saul, and he shouts some orders back. He turns to you. Apologies. He smiles that half smile. I tell you what, Sleeper. Let's you and me make a deal. You want information? I understand that. But I have a list of needs, longer than the rim of the eye itself. He grimaces. So do some things for me, and then we can talk about what's been happening in the system, and I will answer all of your questions, and then some. Or maybe the captain of the Pilgrim seat, and she's certainly the biggest ship in this flotilla, but I'm not the only captain here. We have ships here from each of the moons, Amber's Hearth, just like us, but plenty more from Ember's song and even Ember's step. The moons have been at each other's throats, sleeper, what with the pressure of the flux, bad blood from the old days. Saul leans in. We aren't exactly all in alignment. What I need is a way to stop things escalating, for the crews of these ships and their captains to feel happy and comfortable enough. Hey, to forget all rivalries and past crimes. He flinches at something. Those from Ember's step, well, they've always been proud, but that pride seemed to be a barrier to compromise right now. The last set of supplies I sent their way, they refused. Meanwhile, I have a supply shuttle at docking access the Amber Song ships gather at, but they have taken far too many cycles to unload. Maybe if you're heading that way, you can look in on them. Now, I'm no politician, sleeper, but if I don't... Saul stops. He leans back and flexes, his suit screeching. He groans a little, and you see the weight of the flotilla sitting on his shoulders. The suit the only thing keeping him vertical beneath all that pressure. Look, you see for yourself if you go. Meet the others, sleeper. See what they need. Keep them aligned. He speaks through the pain, his voice clipped. Are you okay? Not really, but as long as this thing holds, he grimaces. I hope. Saul grits his teeth. You are what you appear to be, sleeper. He smiles his half smile, despite the pain. Because I'm not sure I can take any more bad news. Plus, there's plenty to be done here on the Pilgrim Sea too. If you have a moment to pitch in, there's never enough around here. That's something I have learned the hard way. Saul settles onto his cane, pain visibly receding. All right. I have 1,000 things to attend to now, sleeper. So you'll have to find your own way out. And with that, Saul sits at his terminal with slow and careful movements. You head back down in the freight elevator, and as you do, you see again the layers and layers of chaotic life this vessel and all the vessels of the flotilla hold. Noch mehr Gelaber. Someone here. Unload supplies. Okay. Stepstone and Hearth. Hearth survive. Okay. See it then. It's a strange sight, given your time spent in the Greenway, to see a greenhouse choked in red dust. It piles up along edges, gathers in curving waves, and is carried by some unseen wind to whirl in front of the glass ceiling. It is a desert in miniature, a captured landscape of iron-rich sediment and unseen life. Beautiful, isn't it? The remark comes from another figure standing at the viewing window, so quietly that you hadn't noticed them. Did they just arrive, or were they here before you were? The cloth-swaddled form reveals little. It is. They say nothing. You catch a glimpse of a pale face among the thick material, dark eyes glittering in the red reflected light. They turn to you as the dust swirls. Aki. They smile a tight smile. You're not from the flotilla, am I right? I live on the Yar. But that is not where you are from. She stares into the greenhouse. Everyone is from somewhere. Whether they wish to be or not. The red dust glitters in their eyes. Whether it is a good place to be from or not. Aki gathers her cloak around her shoulders against the cold. What brings you to the wind's long shadow? Saul sent me. Aki doesn't respond. She looks absent-mindedly at the dust. You're a strange one. Aki raises an eyebrow. I don't know whether to report you or send you back to where you came from. She smiles to herself, which is nowhere at all. You glance around the empty corridor, suddenly aware of how quiet it is on the ship. Unlike the other ships you have been on the flotilla, there is a silent order to the wind's long shadow. And in this moment it feels unsettling. What happened to you? Aki squints. That is a broad question, and I am not in the mood to recount the history of this ship or step. Step? Aki turns away, irritated, eager to change the subject. You hear creak as a set of shutters slowly begin to close across the glass ceiling of the greenhouse. As you watch, you feel the dissonance this place has with that word. There's nothing green here. A dust house, perhaps. It takes many systems to preserve this landscape. Aki begins. To simulate the wind, cycle the dust, layer the sand and dirt beneath. You watch the dust swirling. Systems that are failing. Flux event. Aki glances at you for a sign of recognition at this term. Is eroding our ability to keep this place alive. Keep these traces of step alive. She smiles to herself. Which is ironic, because when we left step, the flux had eroded our ability to survive on the moon. Now the situation is reversed. Away from the moon, its ecosystems are as fragile as we were, living upon it. Something catches your eye as the shutters darken the dust house. Winds picking away at the dunes begin to reveal something, a web, a network of thick branching forms, and then they close completely, and you see nothing in the dark. Soft blue lights flicker on in the corridor, blighting Aki in cold cyan. You've piqued my curiosity, but I'm so tired. Aki shivers. If you do not have a purpose here on the ship, I recommend finding one. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll need to leave. Make yourself useful, and perhaps we will get another chance to talk. She turns. I would like that. With that, Aki pads away along the corridor. You stand for a moment in front of the dark dust house, trying to imagine the network of roots under the sand and dust, and then trying to imagine the moon that once housed them. Okay. Gut, gespeichert. Ja, dann. Ja, mach mal. Nächstes Mal dann. Hier weiter.